This is the Transformers Studio Series Constructicons, and today we are building the Behemoth Devastator. And to do that, you will need all these figures from the Studio Series line. To have a more accurate Devastator, you will need Skipjack instead of Rampage, but we're going to follow the instructions that Hasbro's laid out for all these figures and use Rampage. To build this figure, you will need Mixmaster, you will need Scavenger, Overload, as I mentioned, Rampage. Then you'll need Long Haul, Scrapper, Hightower, and Scrap Metal. Let's combine this guy. And here is a mighty Devastator, all combined as a behemoth, as we've seen in Revenge of the Fallen. Aesthetically, the combined mode is absolutely pleasing to the eye. I mean, I can literally leave this on the shelf and it's a great semi-posable statue. I love it. I love how Hasbro designed the Studio Series figures to combine to give it that really authentic feel of how Devastator was in Revenge of the Fallen. Albeit there are some proportion issues, like the head I felt should have been bigger. Maybe he should have been crouched a little bit. But other than that, I think overall the Gestalt or the combined mode does justice to the character as we've seen in the movie. Having said all that, and I know a lot of haters are just gonna troll me on this video with all their comments about me whining and complaining about Hasbro and Takara Tomi's products, but I do have several issues with this figure. My biggest issue really is playability. Stability, playability, and how solid the combined mode is. That's probably my biggest issue. There's not a lot of things you can do with this figure. You can just have him standing up and he just he just wants to flop over backwards, or if you try and put him up this way, he's gonna flop over forwards. The feet cannot support the upper mass properly, and it's a shame because aesthetically you can have a lot of playability options with this one, and I think Hasbro missed the boat on that one. And I think the biggest mistake they did was, you know, Overload was fine, but these two guys, they have issues. First off, there's no knees. For some reason, they forgot to put in the knees. You only have a ratcheting hip joint that goes, you can go in and out and forward and backward. Yep, backwards. And you got a thigh swivel that ratchets as well, but there's no knee. There's no knee bend. What you have is sort of an ankle bend and a rocker joint. This one in particular, it moves, but it's so flimsy. And Long Haul kept on unraveling. He kept on unpegging here and there, and I was so disappointed in that in the stability of this figure that I just found a way to just stand him upright so that he wouldn't topple over or anything like that. Next, there's no waist swivel. I don't know if this is a waist swivel. It's too hard. I don't want to twist it. I could end up breaking it. But there's no waist swivel, so you can't really get him into some poses. Without that knee bend and without that waist swivel, you can't get him into that crawling position. There is no neck articulation. You can't have him look at least left or right. They missed out on that. So the only position you can get him in is really just a front-facing position. And the only thing the arms can do is like forward and backward like that, rotate here, and yeah, I do like the fact that he can do a Hulk pose, like, but that's it. And he kind of seems like just he's a playset that you put out there, and then you play around. You have your figures, your other Studio Series figures, your other Transformers, and you play around this entire playset. Okay. My next issue is really how everything connects. Like I said, it's not as solid as I'd like it to be, especially this. Overload connecting to Scavenger. There's just really no place to put these arms except just rest right there. There's no tabbing mechanism or anything like that. And it's up to you to figure out how best to position the legs of Overload. There's nothing to tab into or anything like that. And it was just very annoying. I thought it was going to be a more solid combination mode for this part, but it's not. It just sits there. And talking about looseness, don't even get me started with this piece. This piece looks great as it is, but it looks more like an afterthought. It doesn't really somebody tell me how this thing should be tabbed on, because the instructions just say to just put it on like that and leave it on. And I am without words. I mean, come on, Hasbro. So, yeah, not the biggest, most impressive thing. I had so much hopes. I had very high hopes going into collecting and completing the set that when it finally came, I just feel it's a little bit of a letdown. Because of the lack of playability. It is a toy primarily, so you should be able to play with it in terms of having him pose, moving him about without really this fear of him falling apart and disintegrating as you're playing with it. To some people, some kids, maybe that's fun if things just blow up and they just disintegrate. But for me, I like to keep things in order, and I'm sorry, I'm really disappointed. It's not so much the disappointment, it's more of the frustration that came in this combined mode. I pose my figures a lot. It was very frustrating handling this figure, and I wasn't very pleased with it. So I'm sorry, and I am just trying to keep this review as honest as possible. I know some of you are already thinking the figure is great, the combined mode is amazing. What are you talking about? But if I'm gonna keep it real and I'm gonna keep it honest with you guys, I'm gonna have to give this figure a 7 out of 10. The only reason it's not getting a 4 or a 3 out of 10 is because the way it looks as it is, if you don't play with it, if you just display with it, is generally acceptable and quite imposing and impressive as it is. But when you start playing with it, that's when the disappointment and frustration come in. So I think a 7 is more than generous for this combined mode. Now, if you're planning on completing this combined mode, this Devastator combiner, and you haven't started getting any of the figures, I suggest you wait. Okay, if you can get all of them on clearance, fine. But there are rumors that Hasbro, Takara Tomy are planning on a box set complete with all 7 figures, so you might just want to go and wait for that instead of spending so much money on everybody. Please let me know in the comment section what you think of the combined mode. Let me know how your experience was with this combined mode. Did you have the same experience as I did, or did you have a wonderful time with it? Let me know in the comment section. As always, hit that notification bell so you never miss out on any of my latest video reviews. If it's your first time here, please subscribe. So one last bit, for those of you looking for some size comparisons, here is the combined mode of Devastator together with Leader Class Jetfire, Voyager Class Optimus Prime, and Deluxe Class Bumblebee, all from the Studio Series line. Thanks for watching.